Hello and welcome to another episode of Workplace Wizards. This is episode number 53, and today we're going to talk about the personality style that's just a little bit cautious, a little bit more conscientious. They're very capable, they're very calculating, but we're going to talk about that C personality style when it comes to everything DiSC. I'm Arnold Smalley, and I'm brought to you today from Small World Solutions is our company, and we also have our co-host that's coming all the way from London, England. Let's bring in with a warm welcome to the stage, Gavin Wong.
Afternoon, how are you?
I'm doing good, Gavin. Good guy. We had a great weekend, and now we're back to work and back at it.
Good. I think, did you say a warm welcome or a Wong welcome? I didn't hear what you said then.
I said warm welcome.
It's that accent.
I probably said it wrong anyways. But you don't have to correct me online, Gavin.
I'm sorry. It's okay to make mistakes. We like that. It's good leaders allow people to make mistakes. That's absolutely
the best thing about our podcast is we're very authentic. So yes, our mistakes go right along with our podcast. So we'll just keep moving right along, Gavin.
All your mistakes. All
my mistakes. Yeah, okay. So, Gavin, we're talking about the C personality style, which is what does the C personality style mean to you? What comes to your mind when I say the C personality style?
Yeah, it's interesting because you talked about conscientiousness and things earlier on, but let's remind people what we're talking about. We're talking about DiSC profiles, aren't we? DiSC assessments.
Yes.
And just to summarize what that's about, it's about looking at how essentially people behave at work. Okay, and there are four areas to that. It's called, and it's DiSC. So you've got dominant people, influence people, steady people, and conscientious or compliant people. And those would just be a preference in terms of how you behave, but that helps informs what you're motivated by, what you fear. And if we know that, and we can work at how we interact with other people, and how we can improve ourselves. So just as a quick recap, but C, interestingly, in my world, we call it compliance over here, but I think you use the term conscientiousness.
Conscientiousness, yes.
Conscientiousness.
Or cautious.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, people who are high Cs, as we would call it, very much around, they like rules, they like regulations, they like doing things properly. They like accuracy. Okay, and they like to see that they can be careful, but it's only because they're systematic. Okay, they like to take things through a certain process. So they've got very logical minds. Okay, so if you ask them to do something, they need to see the process through that, and they're driven by doing things correctly.
Okay, I like what you did at the beginning there, Gavin. You broke down what we're certified in everything DiSC and which is a DiSC profile assessment. But how do we get to those categories? How do we put people in a D, I, S, or C category? And let's break that down just a little bit further, because the category is broken up in two lines. So the top two quadrants would be those with more of a fast-paced or very energetic and very as like Myers and Briggs would say, very extroverted type of profile. So that's the ones that'll be in the top two quadrants. Then the lower two quadrants are the more laid back style, personality style. They're more cautious. They're more methodical with the decisions they make in work. So they don't like to be rushed. They want to take their time and make sure they do things. And then the horizontal the vertical X line separates those people who are like people oriented and task oriented. So sometimes you'll find that, a person is a little bit more people oriented. So they lean more towards this side that over here. So it would be D, I, S, C. So therefore, now we're talking about that quadrant that's over here. So that would be they're a little bit slower decision making. They're a little bit more methodical in their approaches to how they want to do things, and they're very task oriented. So they want to make sure they're get the job done, but get the job done correctly.
Yes. Yes, and that grid you reference, you could very simply say, do you make decisions quickly, or
Right.
are you do you question first? And you could put yourself in there. But obviously, the real way to do it is to do a formal assessment,
Oh,
like
yes,
you
yes,
provide,
yes.
obviously. But you get a rough idea about that, how that impacts on you. But I think about the C profile. If you've got a high C, it I think sometimes people perceive it as being one of the weaker ones of the four stars, and it's not. It's just different. And actually, there's a
Mhm.
real place for that type of behavior. If you work at someone who is in a very procedural based environment, so something to do with like criminal justice or law enforcement, where they work with um, courts and attorneys, all that kind of stuff, and different areas and probation, then there's lots of rules and regulations, and you need someone who's got that mindset, who can actually make sure things are being done properly,
Right.
because there's always an element of risk, particularly between different organizations. So for
This-
that type of environment, someone who's very strongly C is really good.
So
Okay.
yeah, so the C personality style is usually somebody who likes to dot the I's and cross the T's. So they
Yes.
want to stick to rules and regulations, and
Yes.
they're big on facts. Big
Yes.
on facts and statistics.
Yes.
You give that personality style, you ask them to do something and you give them the facts behind it or the statistics behind it, they're
Yes.
more likely to accept that and move along with that.
Yes, yeah, definitely. And I think that's very, and this is why I like the DiSC profile so much, because actually, if you know someone's very strong in their C, then you think, well, actually, how do I communicate with them? And what some people are like, not all the time, they might want some things written down because they want to be able to reference that later on to see what they're working against. Okay, because
Mm.
they've got to have that logic and actually to be able to go back to it. So for some people, you might have to write it down for them in quite a lot of detail.
Well,
Other
Gavin,
profiles, you might not need that.
Gavin, you're a high S,
Hmm.
or you're an S with a
Yeah.
high I, which would
Yes.
be almost the opposite of a C personality style. So
Yeah.
an S is a person who's very steady.
Hmm.
We talked about that. They're very helpful. They're very sincere. And the I is, that enthusiastic influencer, or the
Mm.
person that always wants to be in charge of, not in charge, but wants to like be the headliner of the party, or this, that, and the other. So
Yeah.
that's your personality style.
Yes.
But
Yes.
isn't your wife a C?
Yes. Yes. Oh, we have mentioned that. She is very strong C, and she does. And the thing about this profiles, what it does is assesses you how you behave at work. There are obviously some links to how you behave in your personal life as well, because we don't all have complete masks when we go to work. We do a lot of things because it depends on
Right.
what's informing your behavior. But yeah, she's very strong C, so she likes things to be done
We talked about that
properly.
before.
She listen, we had a situation last night. I had something returned to Amazon, so someone come to pick it up, and I got a thing saying, well, they couldn't pick it up. I said, well, of course you picked it up, because I've actually got it on camera on my doorbell. So I was getting a bit irate. I thought I'm gonna have to be with a big fight with Amazon to get my money back. And I just went online. It's like really easy. Got my money back straight away, no problem at all. So I told my wife about this, thinking this was a great story. And she goes, well, of course, what else have you got to do? What else have you got to do? I'm like, well, what do you mean? Well, you've got to get hold of the courier and tell them that they've got it wrong, and explain to them that we've got it on camera. And I'm thinking, oh, I've got my money back. I don't really care anymore. But because she was quite high, she went, no, you've got to do it properly, because they've either made a mistake, okay, or they've, someone's stolen your product. So you've got to make sure they're aware. Okay, so fortunately, it was all sorted. But I didn't have that in my mind. I'm just thinking, oh yeah, great. I've got my money back. I'm happy.
She wanted the task done complete and thoroughly.
Yes.
I love it. I
Yes.
love it. I
Yes.
love it. But and we're talking about a personality style. And like Gavin explained earlier, these are just your highest tendencies to or relate to these personality styles. However, every single one of us has all 4 personality styles within you. It's just sometimes where do you go when when you're under pressure, what personality style usually comes out the most, like if you're under pressure. So your DiSC personality styles usually tells you, hey, this is how you will act majority of the time.
Yes.
And it's not saying you can't be, a C couldn't be the party, because maybe it's their birthday. So they want to be the highlight. Yeah, this is my party. It's my birthday, and they want to be the I in that. They want to be the influencer. They want to be the enthusiastic one because it's a different situation. Or let's say if there's a death in the family, everybody seems to to move towards the S profile style. Where, hey, you want to make sure that everybody's okay. You're more sincere. You're going to talk a little bit slower. You're going to talk a little bit softer. You're going to do the S personality style because you're going to be somebody who's more sincere and you're more, trying to be service oriented when it comes to something, a situation. So once again, we all have all 4 personality styles within us. It's just what matters. What's the action that's going on at this time that's bringing out your personality style?
I think that's really important. What's powerful about it is this is about behavior, and you can choose how you behave to some degree. You have preferences, but you can change these behaviors. But behaviors are informed by lots of things. It could be by nurture. It could be by the role itself. So some people might find their profile in a certain way just reflects the work they're doing, or it might be they're drawn to that type of work because of the way they are. So it's interesting about how it plays out, but you can actually change them, not the extreme ones. If you're really, really high I or high S or whatever, that's quite hard to change. But some of the other ones, if they were kind of on the margins, you can change them with a little bit of effort. But that's just about having that self-awareness, knowing whether it's right to change or not, or even being aware that,
Well, we're talking about what we do, Gavin. Since we're HR, component for HR resources, we'd like to let you know that the leadership is the one who can inspire change. And that's what we try to get across. If you're a great leader, you inspire change in others. You can make changes. What's our motto for the year?
Nothing changes if nothing changes.
Nothing changes if nothing changes. So with that motto being the mindset, sometimes you have to make a change yourself to get the most out of somebody else, to get the best out of someone else, for them to change. But what are some of what's a negative aspect of a C personality style? Sometimes they can come across as being cold.
Yeah, a bit cold or aloof, and potentially they might be slow at making decisions because they want all the detail before they're prepared to make a decision. So in some areas where you need quick decisions, that might not be the best thing to do. So that's
it just makes me think of another instance with you and your wife. So when you
don't
guys
keep
go
bringing her into it, man.
Natalie, we are extremely grateful that you are part of our process because you've taken the assessment and you've joined our group, and so now we can talk about different things within our. But
the powerful thing about it actually is that you can get on with everybody. Just because you're a D doesn't mean you can't get on with a C and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
And we all have preferences anyway. But you just have to, and this is the key, isn't it? This is the key of leadership, that if you know the people that are working for you, in order to get on with them, you need to know what motivates them, what fears they have, what makes them tick. Okay, so if I try to deal with my wife in the same way that I deal with you, that ain't gonna happen. That ain't gonna have a very happy ending. So you have to adapt, don't you? That's all about it. You have to be prepared to adapt.
Well, Gavin, I'm glad you said that. Because of that, we're going to end our podcast with that note. However, getting to know your other people, but it's best if you get to know yourself. And we're going to have a webinar that starts on May 26th. So May 26th will be our first webinar, and it's going to be on personal development. So stay tuned and join us for our free webinar. It's free. You can come online and join for free. So we'll have more about that information in the future, in the near future. So as for right now, we're going to say goodbye.
Cheerio.
So this is episode number 53 for Workplace Wizards podcast, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Talk to you later.